My name is Larry, also known as Old Gazer, and you're watching the Old Gazer YouTube channel, which is dedicated to amateur astronomers, particularly and especially beginning amateur astronomers or inexperienced amateur astronomers, those who are just getting started with a hobby or maybe trying to work your way a little bit further into it. The goal of the channel is to try to give you some practical advice, maybe a little inspiration to just help you along the way. So that's what we're all about. Now, those of you who have been with me before, who've watched my previous videos, will know that it's been a long time since I've posted a video. And that's not because I've quit. It's just that I've had a lot of things going on and some things that I needed to give some time and attention to. Had a little bit of vacation time thrown in, which I enjoyed very much. And so I've just had to step away a little bit in order to give proper time and attention to certain other aspects of life. But I'm back, and I'm not finished, and we're going to have more videos in the future. So just when you thought it was safe to go back to YouTube, suddenly here Old Gazer is again with his ugly mug staring you in the face. And I apologize for that, but thank you for joining, and we'll move forward with another video after an extended break. So welcome and thank you for watching. Let me just give you a little idea before we get started with today's video. This happens to be a small cramped corner of a bedroom in my house, which works out well for me to do some things on the computer and to, just a little nook where I can sort of, participate in my hobby and do some things and display some things. Just wanted to let you know that all of these photographs on the wall back here were taken by me. Nothing special about them, but I'm kind of proud of them, and I enjoyed every minute of obtaining these these photographs. Let me just share a little bit with you about some of these, and then I won't mention them again, I promise. This one up at top here is what I call just a starscape. It was taken in the summer, looking to the northeast of the area where I live. That bright star in the picture is Vega, and you can see Lyra and some other stars. A cloud worked its way through there, and although you can't see it here in this video, there is a slight meteor trail moving obliquely down through the photograph there near the bottom of that cloud, and I was kind of proud to be able to capture that and do that. This is the open star cluster known as the Pleiades. Up here you see a couple of views of Jupiter. One of them is sort of a severe crop of the planet, and the other one is a non-cropped version which shows Jupiter and 4 of its moons. And up here, if you can see it past me here, is a view of Saturn that I took. Took those 3 photographs last summer when the viewing here was pretty good for both of those planets. And by the way, my intention is that perhaps the next video, not today, but the next video, I might go through a little bit of a tutorial about how to view the planets, or at least my preferred method of viewing and imaging the planets. And I'll share with you the process that I used to come up with these pictures of Jupiter and Saturn last summer. So that hopefully will be the next video down the line. Some views of the moon here. The moon remains one of my favorite things to photograph and view after all these years. Up at the top up there is the latest photo that I've done. That is, of course, the Orion Nebula, also with the Running Man Nebula somewhat visible in that photograph. Over here to the right is M13, the globular star cluster in the constellation Hercules. And then down here, another more close view of Orion taken with my 8-inch telescope. And so, that's just an indication of some of the ways I've enjoyed the hobby, and it just kind of, presents a little bit of a good atmosphere for me here as I get in this little nook or corner to do some things on my computer and to do some things involved with practicing the hobby. So just wanted to kind of reintroduce myself because of the long absence and give you an idea of one of the places that's important and special to me in pursuing the hobby. And with that out of the way, let's get to the business of today's video. Okay. With that introduction out of the way, let's proceed with today's video. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, If you've watched my previous videos, you will no doubt be aware that I have emphasized, in fact, literally preached, I guess, over and over and over again, the idea that amateur astronomers have to be patient people. You have to be the kind of people who are willing to take the time to do the right things the right way, to practice and practice and practice until you know what you're doing so that you can then fully engage and enjoy the hobby. And that's very true. I stand by that. But, there's just a long and sometimes complicated learning curve associated with becoming an amateur astronomer. But what if I were to tell you that it is possible to go out and image objects in the night sky, pretty good images of objects in the night sky, in fact, without having to know anything whatsoever about astronomy, without having to know anything about telescopes, without knowing anything about where things are in the night sky. And if you're taking photographs of objects in the night sky, what if I told you that you can go out and do that without having to know anything of substance about photography? You can completely bypass 98-99% of the learning curve associated with this great hobby if you're just going to want to go outside at night and take some images of objects in the night sky. How can you do that? Well, there is some fairly new technology out there. Now, it's not brand new. These things have been around for a while, but not very long. And they're continuing to evolve even as we speak with new versions coming out. But there are pieces of technology that are truly amazing. I mean, you've just got to shake your head and wonder if they've been able to pull this off. There are some companies out there who are marketing devices. I think one of the companies calls it an observation station. The other one calls it a digital telescope. There might be other names for them that I've mentioned. But I simply like to refer to these new projects, these new pieces of technology as robotic telescopes. Now, there are two companies, so far as I know. Now, I haven't looked much into this for a while, so there may be some other players in the game by now, and I apologize if I'm missing anything here. But there are two companies that are manufacturing these absolute mind-blowing pieces of technology. One of them is called Stellina, and let me see if I can get an image of that up here. This is Stellina. As you can see, it's a rectangular white box with a telescope tube coming out of it and three legs at the bottom. The other one of these products is called EvScope, and it looks more like a traditional telescope, as you can see here. But regardless of the dissimilarity in their appearance, one looking like a neat, trim little robot and the other looking more like a conventional telescope, they basically do the same thing. So what do? Well, they do everything. They do everything for you. You take this object out at night, you set it down, you turn it on, and using your smartphone, you tell it what object in the sky you'd like to look at. And this object, this robotic telescope, this observation station or digital telescope, or call it what you will, literally does everything else and shows you the image of the object you want to look at right there on the screen of your smartphone. It's an amazing thing. These things automatically align themselves. You don't have to go through any alignment procedure. It will look at the night sky and figure out where it is and be able to go from there. It will find the object you want to see. It will track it very precisely across the sky, and it will produce images of this object as you watch it develop and emerge and come out of the screen on your smartphone. It uses image stacking technology, image integration techniques, takes images of this object one after the other, layers them together, and the more you watch and the more images get layered together there, the better and more pleasing and defined that object is going to appear, until finally you'll have a decent image, a very decent image in many cases, based on the examples I've seen of this object that you want to see. It does all of that for you. You don't have to do anything. One of these devices, at least, maybe both of them, I'm not sure which. Pardon me again for if I get anything wrong here. They have built-in light pollution filters. One of them, at least I know, has a built-in dew heaters to protect you from dew during the evening. They have electronic focusing. You name it. They do everything for you, and they do it well. They are absolutely amazing pieces of technology. Now, I've never used one of these. In fact, I've never personally seen one or touched one or anything, but I've seen some demonstrations, some demos of these, some tutorials about how to use them, and some of the results they've produced, and they are very, very good, intriguing. You just got to give all kinds of credit to the companies that developed and are producing and marketing these devices. They are wonders of technology. I mean, they literally do it all. One of the great features of these products is that they are very, very good in heavily light polluted skies. I saw a YouTube video where they took one of these devices out right in the middle of downtown Las Vegas, which has got to be one of the most light polluted places imaginable. I mean, you can imagine that. They took this thing out in the middle of Las Vegas, and they went through a demonstration of letting this object find and image a couple of objects in the night sky, and it had no problems. It aligned itself without any problem. It found the objects it was looking for, and it produced really decent images of these objects as well. So works very well even in heavily light polluted skies. So they really are amazing devices. Now, you might be wondering, well, what's my take on this? By the way, let me mention something else about these. You can have as many as 10 people, maybe more now. I don't know how far this technology has advanced, but you can have as many as 10 people out there watching these images on their smartphones all at the same time. Very good for group involvement. Just an amazing piece of technology. So back to the question, what is my take on this? Am I positive about these new devices? Am I negative about them? Am I somewhere in the middle? What are my personal pros and cons concerning these devices? Being a person who's been involved with amateur astronomy for a very, very long time, there are a lot of people who believe that this is the future of amateur astronomy, and it may well be. Let's talk about some of the pros and cons of these robotic telescopes, if you will. First of all, they're going to draw more people to the hobby than otherwise might have been drawn to the hobby. I mean, when it becomes that easy, you can just go out and, set this thing up and turn it on and say, I want to see the Orion Nebula, and that's all you have to do. It does everything else for you and produces a nice image for you that you can share with people on social media, or you can, save off and edit to your heart's content. That ease of operation is obviously going to draw more people to the hobby, and that's got to be a good thing. We want more people involved with and drawn to this very marvelous hobby. So that's a plus. Very good for group involvement. If you can have 10 people all involved in looking at this image all at the same time, of course they'll have to have a smartphone with the appropriate app within the Wi-Fi parameters. But up to 10 people, excellent for group involvement. You can see that that's a big step forward there. People in heavily light polluted areas, very, very difficult to find and view, almost impossible to find and view deep sky objects. Also can be difficult to image or photograph deep sky objects. This is a possible solution to that. I've seen the first-hand demonstration of how it performed in downtown Las Vegas. this thing does well in heavily light polluted environments. So that's a plus. Another plus is there are some people out there who might have some sort of physical disabilities that might make it very difficult, if not impossible, for them to engage in amateur astronomy the traditional way and lugging telescopes back and forth and, getting in certain positions to look through eyepieces and all that kind of thing. This would perhaps provide an opportunity for people who otherwise might physically not have the ability to participate in the hobby to do so. And that, of course, by any viewpoint, would be an extremely positive contribution to the hobby. A very good thing indeed. So a lot of good about this. What might be some of the cons? Well, I'm old school. I admit that I've got a bias. I wouldn't take anything for the way that I have evolved through this hobby, for all the experiences that I've had, all of the challenges that needed to be overcome, all the time and effort and problem-solving abilities that I might have or might once have had in younger days had to be brought to bear in order to really appreciate and enjoy the hobby. A wonderful, wonderful experience, big part of my life. Wouldn't take anything for that. And this just kind of, to think that something has come along that sort of obviates the need to go through all of that is something that I find, a little bit distasteful, for lack of a better word. But again, I'm old school. Now, I think one of these devices robs a person from some of the real joys of being involved with this hobby. But that's just me, an old school guy who is, I hate to say I'm set in my ways, but to a degree I suppose we all are, and perhaps the older we are, the more we are. So maybe I'm just being resistant to change. But, I don't want to say these are bad things, because they are definitely not. I guess I'm somewhere middle of the road regarding how I feel about this new technology. I've really not been resistant to change throughout my life. I mean, certainly not more so than anybody else. I've typically embraced change. What's that old saying? The only constant in life is change. And change, by and large, is a good thing. I appreciate that this is a big step forward and a big change in amateur astronomy. And I think we need to embrace it. There's no point in trying to fight against it or push against it. We'll get left behind. So here's the thing. If I had one of these, or if somebody were to be generous enough to gift me with one of these, I am certain that I would use it, and I'm certain that I would enjoy it. But it would not be to the exclusion of all of the other ways that I enjoy this hobby. I still want to use my traditional telescopes. I want to be able to find things in the night sky. I want to look up there and just be comfortable and familiar with that night sky. It seems like an old friend, a comforting old friend, when you go out there and you look up and you say, there's this and there's that. And, I'll always have that, and I'll never get away from that. And I would not let some robotic device take that appreciation away from me. I enjoy the process of taking my own photographs, determining the right camera settings, the right telescope, the right field of view, all of those kinds of things. Just very enjoyment. One of my biggest enjoyments in the hobby over the years has been overcoming those things, working hard to get that final good view or that final good image. Tremendous satisfaction in that. And I wouldn't let go of that for anything. And I would hope that all of you getting started in amateur astronomy would, commit yourself to working through a lot of the learning curve, just because it's such a satisfying and educational and inspirational experience. To me, that's a big part, perhaps the biggest part of what amateur astronomy is all about. It's not just looking at that object or taking a picture of that object. It's the process involved in getting there. The journey is, at least as important to me as the destination is. And that's been a big part of my enjoyment of the hobby, and I wouldn't give that up for anything. So I wouldn't let these devices supplant or replace all of that, but I would certainly use these objects if I had one. these products, these devices rather, if I had one, and I'm sure I would enjoy it. But here's what I think would happen in my personal case, and I think this probably might be true for a lot of people who've been around this hobby for a while. I would get bored if I just transitioned over to using one of these new robotic telescopes and left everything else behind. I'm pretty confident that I would get bored fairly quickly. I mean, you go outside, you turn it on, you say, I want to look at M13. It does the rest, except for you doing a little scrolling and a little work on your, manipulating on your smartphone. Once you've done that so many times, then what else is there to do? I mean, you're kind of, that's like the be all and the end all of it if you're going to use these devices to the exclusion of everything else. I just don't think that would work for me over the long term. I might still use them occasionally and enjoy them very much, which I'm sure I would. And again, I have to give my highest compliment and my tremendous admiration to the companies who have developed these devices. It is a remarkable achievement. And I'm sure it's only going to get better over time. In fact, they are already coming out with new generations of these things, and I'm sure other companies will be joining the effort somewhere along the line, if they haven't already. I'm not nearly as up to date and current with this probably as I should be. So they're good in many aspects. To my mind, they're perhaps not so good in other aspects because they rob the amateur astronomer from learning about all of those things that make this such a deep, engaging, inspirational hobby. So if you're new and if you're thinking about going this route, maybe this will have been of some benefit to you. They're amazing things. I'd like to have one. I'd use it if I did. But it wouldn't take the place of every other aspect of enjoying this hobby. I hope you'll do the same way. It's really, really exciting, inspirational, wonderfully educational to work through the learning curve associated with, learning about the night sky, learning how to find things out there, going out there and that night sky just feeling like an old friend that just covers you with comfort and inspiration. Learning how to use these devices, the thrill of overcoming challenges and obstacles and figuring out what fields of view, what magnifications, what camera settings and all of that you need to get a good view or a good image of these objects, extremely rewarding. And I hope that even if you have one of these and you decide to go in this direction, that you won't rob yourself of the tremendous satisfaction and enjoyment associated with a more traditional approach and aspect of amateur astronomy. If I'm just old school and if that doesn't resonate with you, well, that's so be it. But hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from with this, and we'll keep that in mind as technology develops. Now, new technology, and especially an amazing piece of technology like these new devices, will come with a price. And what will that price be? Well, currently they're ranging, I haven't looked at it again for some time, but the last time I looked, depending upon the model and the specific product that you're looking at, anywhere from roughly $2,500 up to beyond $5,000 currently. So, it's they're not cheap, but they may not be overpriced for what they do. I mean, they are amazing pieces of technology. So if you've got $2,500 for an older version of one of these, up to $5,000 or $6,000, or for perhaps the latest possible version of these, then get one. If that's no object for you and you want to do that, buy it and use it and just see how it goes. But I hope you won't forget to also engage yourself in some of the more traditional aspects of amateur astronomy, astrophotography, all those kinds of things, because you'll be missing out on a great deal of excitement and inspiration and education and just a tremendous amount of reward and satisfaction associated with this great hobby. So that's my take on these things. felt obligated to point these out to you in case there are some of you out there that perhaps didn't know about this technology. And so check it out, investigate it. Look at some of these YouTube videos, some of the demonstrations, some of the tutorials, some of the reviews, and decide whether or not this might be a direction in which you'd like to go. But once again, I hope that you will consider that there is a lot to be gained by allowing yourself to go through a more traditional learning curve associated with this hobby, which for me, an old, I don't might call myself old gazer for nothing. I'm old, probably old school and set in my ways, but I encourage you to not let go of a commitment to passing through at least a big part of the learning curve, the traditional learning curve associated with this hobby. So that's my take on that, and we'll stop right there. I think I alluded earlier to the fact that what I hope to do in the next video is to have a tutorial on how I go about viewing and taking photographs of the planets. There are a number of different approaches to doing that. I'm going to share with you the one that I have found to be most effective for me personally, and we'll see what you think about that. And so we'll be talking about the planets the next time, hopefully. And until then, thank you so very much for watching. And as always, guys, I wish you nothing but clear skies and good viewing. And by the way, I almost forgot. As I'm doing this video, this is on a Saturday, tomorrow on Sunday, there's going to be a full lunar eclipse. And I hope all of you that can will get out and take advantage to look at that and enjoy that. Unfortunately, it's not looking good for me here where I live. The weather looks like it's not going to cooperate, so I'm not sure I'll have any opportunity to see much, if any of it at all, but I'll make the effort, and I hope you will too. And as you do that, I hope you have the opportunity for clear skies and good viewing.